Hello there, I'm Simon Rafe and welcome to Brown Bag Bible Study, the Bible study you can do in your lunch break. Now this is an introduction to Scripture which will give you some information that you might not have known and encourage you to read the Bible. In addition, it is presented in bite-sized pieces which are perfect to fit in with our busy lifestyles. Now every week I'm going to be concentrating on a small part of Scripture, either one of the 73 books of the Bible or a group of related books, and I'll be bringing you interesting facts and information to help you understand it. I'll also be including links to further reading, articles, videos, podcasts, books and so forth, which will help you learn to love sacred Scripture even more. This week, St. Paul's letter to the church at Galatia. Now, Galatia is not a city, but rather a province in central Anatolia, which is modern-day Turkey, and Paul wrote an urgent letter to them addressing a number of problems in the churches there. Now, there is some disagreement over when and where this letter was written, with some scholars considering this to be the earliest of the epistles. However, most scholars agree it was written later, either in Ephesus or Corinth. The letter is a clear rebuke to the Galatians. A burning problem in the early church was the attitude to Judaism, and the Christians of Galatia had become convinced they had to adhere to the Mosaic law in order to be saved. Now this letter is Paul's answer, and it is a very clear refutation of the notion a Christian should have to keep the Mosaic law. Using rabbinic arguments which would appeal to the Jews, Paul makes it very clear the cross and faith set aside the law, saying that the law brings only a curse. In this epistle, Paul states a man is not saved through works but by faith. Now, some Protestants interpret this to mean all works, but the correct understanding, as is revealed by reading these verses in context and also in light of the letter of St. James, is that it is works of the Mosaic law which cannot save, not works of charity performed in union with Christ. Now, the Catholic apologist will need to be well versed in what the epistle to the Galatians actually does say when dealing with so-called sola fides Protestants. There are some very interesting things to note in this letter. Firstly, the incident at Antioch, where Paul upbraids Peter for not eating with Gentiles. Now, Protestants sometimes use this as an argument that the Pope cannot be infallible, but it's not a good argument for that. Peter knew what he should do and never taught against it, he just didn't do it. This was a case of not walking the talk, which is not the same thing as being fallible. Secondly, the harsh tone of the letter should be noted. Paul really does not mince words here and really attacks the Galatians, calling them stupid people. But Paul is doing this in love, and this is an important thing for modern Christians when faced with accusations of uncharitable behaviour. It is not uncharitable to correct a fellow Christian in love, or, as Paul says in 2 Thessalonians, to correct him as a brother. Finally, Paul uses the beautiful metaphor of the two sons of Abraham to show that we become sons of God not through physical descent from Abraham, but rather by faith and the promise of Abraham. This is the earliest and clearest declaration of the position of the Gentiles within salvation history, and is not only a beautiful piece of writing, but is also vital for us as Gentile Christians brought into the fold of Christ by the mission of the church. Now that's all for this week. Read the letter to the Galatians and also take a look at the additional materials. Pay particular attention to the apologetics materials to better understand the content of Galatians with regard to Protestant misunderstandings and their false doctrines. Next week, we will be dealing with the next letter Paul wrote, the second letter to the church at Corinth. Until next time, I'm Simon Rafe, and God bless. To learn more about the place of Scripture in the lives of Catholic Christians, I urge you to read Pope Benedict's apostolic exhortation Verbum Domini. The Pope encourages all Catholics to read, learn and love Scripture and to understand its relation to the Church. A link to this exhortation is included in the reading materials for every episode of Brown Bag Bible Study. Just click the link over there.